bust this.
Hey Gear Seekers, I'm Nick. I wasn't actually going to do a video about this at all, but I decided that I wanted to have a chat with you guys about the new NVIDIA RTX 30 series stuff while I tear apart the sleeper PC and answer a couple questions about this PC as we're pulling it apart as well. So without further ado, let's roll the intro and then rip apart the beast. As usual with these teardown videos, I kind of use them as an opportunity to chat with you guys and answer some questions that we've got during the previous week. We've stopped doing them as much, but yeah, I thought that the 30 series stuff that we released yesterday was worth chatting about because a lot of people got confused as to why we picked the hardware we did for our new test bench. And guys, there's always a reason for everything that we do here on the channel, and I'm going to talk about all of that in this video. So without further ado, let's plumb up the drain and get her empty. Let's do it. We should probably turn this thing off, right, Claire?
Yeah.
Probably just turn it off. Well, it's over now, so bye-bye. And we'll discharge some of the power if there's any left. And yeah, we're gonna pull this apart now. I'm gonna just tap into the drain. This is gonna be a bit of a weird looped drain because the pump's kind of at the top of the loop and most of the mass of the fluid will be towards the bottom of that radiator. Actually works out that we'll probably be able to pull the radiator out even though it'll still have a whole stack of coolant in it, which is not a problem at all. But yes, let's chat about the 30 series stuff. Now, obviously yesterday we put out a video about our new test bench for all of the newer GPUs that are coming out that use PCIe Gen 4. Now, the reason why we changed to that was basically to see if there would be a difference and extract the maximum performance. Now, a lot of people got confused as to why we use PCIe Gen 3 NVMe drives. That's because NVIDIA even said it themselves that all of the new storage stuff that they're working on is not going to be available at launch. So why would we have provisions for it at launch if they're not going to actually have it implemented yet? So it just doesn't make sense for us to do that. We knew about that, which is why we didn't do it. As well as that, we'll probably change the drives out once they do implement that. And we've got a bunch of new really fast NVMe drives coming, faster than anything we've tested in a single drive before from both Sabrent and Samsung. So that should be coming up in the next couple weeks. Stay tuned for that. It's going to be really, really interesting. And we might actually do the RAID 0 thing again, but with these faster drives so we can go even faster again. But yeah, that's basically like the gist of that whole video was to really look at that. Empty her out, baby. Look at that. Most of that's out, eh? Not bad. A lot of the comments got really confused as to why we did the things the way that we did. And some people thought it was clickbait, but it was actually right there in the title. We upgraded our test bench in preparation for these new GPUs. I thought that was pretty obvious, Claire. It just seems as though people, I don't know what it is. I talked about it on Twitter and a lot of people agreed with me as well. A lot of people aren't really listening and I don't know what's like, just in general, they're hearing what they want to hear. This happened with the AIO thing that Gamers Nexus did a couple of weeks ago as well. People only heard what they wanted to hear and they didn't listen to the full story. But that's just how it is these days. I actually messed this up a bit. I meant to pull the GPU out first, but got most of the res drained first. Now this coolant absolutely stinks. It smells like nail polish. It is the worst smelling coolant ever. Do not use it. It smells so bad. Oh my God, I forgot how potent it was. Oh, I might get high with this coolant. All right, let's get this GPU out. The GPU was actually just resting in the bottom of the case here. I didn't fasten it at all. I didn't need to. This is a Lee vertical support bracket. So that's why it's got like a flat base, so you can just mount it directly like that, which is actually kind of cool. You can have your own eGPUs, if you will, which is completely stupid. Personally, with all the new NVIDIA stuff, you may or may not have seen towards the end of the video, but I'm actually really excited for it. It's something that we haven't seen in a while. From the outset, like from things that we can tell that NVIDIA's saying without like looking at testing and whatever Digital Foundry did, it looks like it's going to be a very big generational increase. However, I would take all of that with a grain of salt. You have to remember with Digital Foundry's independent testing that NVIDIA controlled all of the test parameters for that video. So just take all of that with a grain of salt. They actually only compared it to a 2080 as well. There's another thing to consider there. A lot of what NVIDIA talked about was ray traced increased performance. So just take everything that you're seeing with a grain of salt until people like us and other media outlets actually get their hands on the cards to do testing when we're allowed to share those numbers with you. Don't go out and flood the market with cheap cards until you know how these things are really going to perform. If we just take a look at history, back to when Intel 9th Gen released with Principal Technologies, you would have seen that there was a bit of controversy with using those independent contractors for benchmarking. It could possibly be the same with Digital Foundry. I'm not going to say anything because those guys usually put out some really legit content, but just take what you're seeing with a grain of salt, because the narrative has been completely controlled by NVIDIA at this point in time. So just really use your brain and don't believe everything that you're seeing from NVIDIA with benchmarks. You have to remember, even with things from experience with working with NVIDIA and just seeing the way that companies will work with competition, they showed Intel benchmark results for a very obvious reason, because it's Intel and they work closely with Intel on a lot of their projects. AMD is a direct competitor in the GPU space, so they're not going to be using AMD CPUs for that stuff. How do I know this? Because we've done projects with NVIDIA and we can't use AMD CPUs. And it's kind of that thing where, like when we do our NVIDIA sponsored videos, people ask, oh, why didn't you use this and that CPU? That's literally the reason, right? And for their keynote where they're releasing new hardware, it's exactly the same thing. So just really take everything that you're seeing with a grain of salt, guys. There's a lot of information that is yet to be shared, so just wait for people like us to put out that information and give you guys the whole story, right? Because at the end of the day, we're one of you guys, right? There's nothing wrong with them doing that and controlling things that way, because obviously it's competition and that's just the way that it works. But again, grain of salt, massive, huge grain of salt until independent testing can be conducted. Or rather, the independent testing can be shared. And I feel like people have really, really short memories with this stuff, because this happened 2 years ago with the RTX lineup. This happened with Pascal before that. This happens with every single CPU launch. This happens every few months, and people just have a very, very short memory. It's insane to me. I don't understand it. I actually want to read a tweet to you guys that I tweeted. I did 2 tweets today just to share my thoughts. And if you're not following us on Twitter, follow us on Twitter, because I do some random ranty things, and it's not really that bad. It's more like just me sharing thoughts. All right, let me read out this first tweet just to show you where my mind is, right? And I said, one thing that really irritates me with YouTube is how you can literally spell everything out for people, give everyone all of the information required, and then have people ask a question that you literally just answered in a video, right? And this is exactly what happened with our NVIDIA video as well. We answered everything, but people only heard what they wanted to hear. And the other thing that I wanted to add, and then the other tweet was this morning, and it resonated with people as well. I wrote, it's insane that people are just flat out believing NVIDIA's benchmarks from an announcement, right? It literally means nothing. It's just marketing, right? And that's the bottom line. I don't remember a time where people have just flat out believed marketing. It doesn't make sense to me. So let's learn from history, guys. Anyway, enough ranty, more pulley-aparty and drainy. This is a very, very simple system. So I'm gonna make an absolute mess right now. All right, are you guys ready for the absolute mess? Oh, this fitting is really tight as well. Okay, here we go. Oh, I kind of want to undo this one, actually. Let's undo that one. This is going to be messy. This shows you how good the compression fittings are as well. Check that out, right? These EK fittings. There's literally like no compression part on it and just an O-ring. Look at that. Pull the O-ring back, it's still completely sealed, right? This is to show you how strong, how good these fittings are. EK makes some really good fittings, not sponsored. Okay, let's crack that one. There we go. Excellent. Rightio. You guys ready for the ultimate loop YOLO? You ready, Claire? Ultimate loop YOLO? This is a terrible idea. Ultimate loop YOLO? Oh, this is a horrible idea. Ultimate loop YOLO. Yeah. Okay, let's cap off the CPU block quickly. Shouldn't be too hard. We have 2 caps here. All right, let's pull out the front, well, basically all of the water cooling gear. I actually, when I modded this case initially, I had the radiator mounted more towards the left-hand side here, or the right-hand side, depends which way you're looking at it. But I actually used the original holes that were for the drive cage. They just happened to line up. I wasn't expecting it. And yeah, I kind of moved it more that way for cable management purposes and just for lining stuff up inside of the case itself. Because sometimes it's a little bit difficult to line this stuff up, but I actually got quite lucky with all of the water cooling gear in this build. It was really easy to build. This is probably the easiest loop that I've ever built in the history of building custom water-cooled PCs. It was literally probably the quickest build that, I don't know, it took like 3 hours or something crazy like that. But yeah, it did not take long at all. Basically the way that it's mounted, it's completely ghetto, by the way. There's 2 screws here and there's 1 down the bottom, and the screw at the bottom basically just stops the radiator from tilting backwards and forwards. Otherwise it would be quite uneven. But yeah, let's pull it out, pull that bottom screw out first, and you'll see what I mean. If I pull this screw out now, you'll notice that the whole thing tilts backwards and forwards like that. Excuse the background sounds. There's some construction going on for some reason in our building. I don't know what that's about, but completely random. But yeah, we should be able to pull this out. This should basically come free of the case, other than the wiring, which is okay. I just want to get it out because there's still a whole stack of coolant in here. But check that out, right? All of this will come out in one huge blob of cables and mess. And there's literally just a stack of gaffer tape holding all of it in. And with some luck and a random Molex cable, I don't know why they still do Molex for pumps. It's kind of annoying. Stop doing that. Karen has spoken, Claire. Karen has spoken. But yes, okay. Well, all of this except this one RGB. Okay, now it's free. Completely free. I left some SATA or SATA power in there. I don't know why. It was just in case I was going to use an RGB controller, but I didn't end up using it. So there we have it. That's all of the water cooling gear out. Now we can move on to the motherboard. The screws for this motherboard, or rather the screws to mount the motherboard, are from the original case. I actually have to salvage them. They use a different sized thread to most other standoffs, and I don't know, I think there's just something special about these screws with the washers on them. I like them, they look cool. I've just kept them for this build. I just screw them back into the standoffs in this case when I'm done with it. There'll probably be another build with this, but probably in a year's time, where I do something even crazier when we get like the RTX 40 series. I'm joking, I don't know. But this CPU will be going into a permanent system very soon. I've been debating whether or not to go 32 or 64 core for my new editing PC, and I think I've decided to go 32 core, mainly because it's money, really. Realistically, it's just money, and I don't really want to not waste. Waste is the wrong word. I don't really want to put a 64 core in a permanent system. I would much prefer using the 32 core for a production system. The 64 core is a little bit overkill. I do have like 128 gigs of RAM going into the new build. I'm actually slightly modifying another case, and we're not actually going to be doing the quick disconnect water cooling like we'd planned on initially. There's a couple reasons for it. I'm not going to explain it in this video. I will explain it in the build for the new workstation, but essentially I'm going to be modifying the CL500 from Deepcool to fit EATX, and I've been planning that for a little while. And if you're in our Discord, in our supporters section, you would have seen some of the mock-ups and stuff that I've done for that build. Last thing we're going to pull out is this power supply. I'm not going to bore you guys with the whole cleanup process. I don't want to put you through that, and that takes more time than the whole teardown itself, is to clean all the water cooling fittings and all that, ready for another build later down the line. All right, ladies and gents, I hope you enjoyed this little bit of a teardown and a little bit of a chat about the NVIDIA 30 series GPUs. Now, if you haven't seen the original build video, I'll put a link down in the description down below. And if you like the music you heard here, I'm not sure if I'm gonna use music in this video yet, but I make all the music. There's a link to our Patreon. All of our music is available on our Patreon only, depending on the song that we use, that is. Also, guys, if you wanna get early access to videos just like this one right here, we are on Floatplane. You can go over there. There's a link in the description down below. If you like the video, smash like. If you hated the video, hit the dislike button twice. Once again, thank you so very much for watching. I'm your boy Nick with Gear Seekers. You pick, we seek. And yeah, I just felt like I had a few more things to add about the NVIDIA 30 series stuff that I didn't talk about, though I did imply, and the stuff that I explained in the video as well that people, I don't know what's wrong with people lately. People just aren't listening. I don't know if it's just me or if it's something that we're doing. I don't know, but people aren't listening to the information that we're giving them, and the information is right there in front of them. And I don't want to be like Karen. Is that her name? Karen? But I just again, I need to talk to you guys about this stuff because it is concerning that a lot of people just aren't using their ears or reading the subtitles in the videos, because everything is basically explained in the video if you watch videos all the way through. Yeah, thanks for watching.